Well, prices are already going up on some popular items. Tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, but you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
What's going on, guys? We got another interview here with Teflon Don versus the fake news anchor, Kristen Welker of NBC, host of Meet the Press. Now, low-key, he actually might like Kristen Welker. He's interviewed with her before, and he's doing it again, which makes me think maybe he's okay with interviewing with her because he chose not to go with somebody else. So maybe he actually likes Kristen, even though she's a leftist propagandist and Democrat shill in disguise. She tries to be undercover like all of these Democrats do. Meanwhile, their voting record for which party that they vote for is public, and it's always going to say Democrat. But without further ado, let me go ahead and just jump right into this because this interview is like a solid hour long. I'm going to compress it down for the sake of this video. Let's get into this.
When the stock market spiked, you said this is the Trump effect. When the numbers weren't so good earlier this week, you said it's the Biden effect. Are you only taking ownership of the good numbers and not the bad numbers?
I think he did a lot of very bad things, and despite some of the bad things, we're overcoming them. But he was bad on the border. He was bad on the economy. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Look, Biden gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. People, it didn't matter what they made because they were losing their shirt because of costs. Now take a look at what happened. Oil is down, gasoline is down, groceries are down, eggs. You were the one that asked me. You asked me about eggs. It was the first week. I didn't even know anything about what were you talking about. Egg prices were so high you couldn't buy eggs. They didn't have any eggs. And they said Easter is going to be a disaster. Well, we had Easter at the White House, and we had thousands of eggs, and they were down 87%. 11,888 murderers, many of them murdered more than one person. Think of that. And they're in our country. Now, we've gotten a lot of them out, and we know who many of them are, and we're on the hunt. But why would anybody do that? Why would anybody, who could do such a thing with it?
Well, they know that a lot of the constituents, like Anna Navarro, who had her X account hacked recently, per my last video, they know that people like her are going to freak out as soon as you start deporting anybody. So to them, it's a necessary sacrifice. Well, we'll just let the criminals come into the country and remain in the country, because if we deport them in this day and age with this current level of animosity and vitriol in politics, they're like, well, it's just not going to be, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze to really deport hardly anybody.
I could not get the prior administration to do that. In fact, somebody at the White House told me, no, we don't want to do that because we don't want to aggravate our advocates, the immigration advocates. And I just couldn't believe they were saying that. They were putting the immigration advocates above our border communities. And I knew at that time that we were totally on a different page.
So, hey, let's just let them stay in the country forever and kill and maim American citizens. Donald Trump said no, and so did we.
Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls. Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
You're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk that we don't need.
Well, prices are already going up on some popular items,
whoa.
tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy.
And look, and for the record, she's talking about prices for tires are up. I just bought some tires. I deliberately picked tires that were like a little bit more expensive, but some of them were still like under $150. I mean, guys, I've been buying tires for years. They average around $200. And the tires I got were under $200 still. So I don't know what tire prices went up. Was it certain companies? Was it everybody? I am confused. Was it on average? Guys, they always talk about these damn tires. They said this during Trump's first administration too, that the price of tires went up. Like, let me know, are you guys having issues paying for your tires?
Went up to $3. When you go that much lower on energy, which is ahead of my prediction, because I really thought I could get it down into the 250s. We have it down at $1.98 in numerous places. But when you say costs are going up, even mortgage rates are going down.
Well, but let me give you some examples. These are actual examples. So you're saying the prices that are going down, some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
Excuse me, that's peanuts compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
Guys, and under what circumstance are no prices on anything going to go on nothing? No prices on nothing. But this is the most cherry picking that I wish they would have did this to Sleepy Joe. Like, man, Sleepy Joe, your inflation is at 9+%. Why? But no, they're throwing these freaking softballs to Sleepy Joe all the time. Like, none of this the reeling back and wheel. Like, no, they're throwing these. Here you go, Joe. Here you go. Like, these people are this making me sick already, and we're like at the beginning. This is about an hour long. I'm only freaking 15 minutes in.
Energy is the big.
You campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day.
Well, I don't know. When you say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those?
Even mortgage rates.
Is this a serious
mortgage rates are going down despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, $35. You can have 2, 3, 4 and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great. Again, we're losing more than $5 billion a day. $5 billion a day. You don't talk about that.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut down.
And many businesses are being helped.
Are you considering tariff relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the automobile? I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking you about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very easy.
Uncertainty for CEOs, for business owners. They want to know, are these tariffs permanent?
I think there's only uncertainty in the fake news. I don't think there's uncertainty. I mean, I've been very rigid, very strong on it, but I will say I'm flexible. Like with respect to parts made outside of the country, I gave the automobile companies a little extra time.
Is it okay in the short term to have a
Remember
recession?
this. Look, yeah, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically. One of your colleagues on another fake news station, ABC, said, do you guarantee 100% that a certain person is going to do a fantastic job as, let's say, Secretary of Defense, okay? Because that was the question. I said, what kind of a question is that? Do I guarantee 100%? Nobody guarantees 100%. But I will say this. I think we're going to have an economy the likes of which we've never had before. But what people don't understand is, and this is a lot, the country eats the tariff. The company eats the tariff. And it's not passed along at all.
Well, some CEOs are saying they're going to have to pass it on. So how do you deal with those CEOs?
But the company,
how do you deal with those CEOs?
China is eating the tariffs right now.
What do you say to those CEOs who are saying we might have to pass this on to the consumer?
Well, they say that because maybe it's to their advantage to say it.
Will
Maybe
you punish them?
Exactly.
No, because you know what? I want them to build plants in the United States.
Like, obviously, if these people don't want to change their business operations, they're going to say things because they're politically savvy enough to not just say, oh no, the tariffs, yeah, we're just going to eat those costs and just let all of our investors know that we're just going to eat those costs. Like, you got to actually use your damn head here. Like, be smart. People are going to say things because, not because they're necessarily true, but because they want things to go a certain way. So if they feel like they could maybe pressure Donald Trump into backing down on the tariffs, then they're going to say that. If they know the fake news is going to be on their side and pick up all of these things and start spreading these rumors, oh yeah, we're going to pass all our costs to consumers, of course they're going to say that. Might they be bluffing in some cases? Of course. Might they be telling the truth in some cases? Of course. But does it mean that realistically a company can just self-sustain itself if their whole model is flipped on its head and they just raise all their prices? Are they realistically going to be able to stay in business? History would demonstrate that that is not the case unless it's products that people have to have, like gas and groceries. But when we're talking about toys and strollers and stuff like that, okay, there's going to be other people who do build product in the United States who don't have these types of problems. They'll stay in business. And if you're trying to still use China labor, then I guess you go out of damn business. Too bad. So sad.
Let's talk about deportations. Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border,
is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's
Isn't
absolutely
that good?
secure.
That when you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border.
You declared a national emergency on the southern border. The order is still in place.
By the way,
even
it
though
means
you're saying
exactly
the border's
what you
secure.
said. You know, it means we have the most secure border we've ever had.
Well, and I guess the question
complicated.
becomes, when will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it at some point? Is it necessary? Because obviously the military is involved. Will you lift that emergency?
Well, the biggest emergency is the courts aren't allowing us to take really.
We're going to
bad
talk
people
about
out.
that, but talk to me first
that's
about
to me
this.
the emergency.
Talk to
because
me first about this.
The border
emergency.
now is not the emergency. The border is it's all part of the same thing, though. The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the
mean,
Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Just to button this up, though, are you planning to lift that emergency order anytime soon? Now that the border's secure?
We have an
You say the
emergency. We
border's
have a
secure.
massive emergency. Overall, it's an overall emergency.
I like how this, now they're trying to use Trump's victories against them. Well, hey, border secure now. You don't need a national emergency anymore. So that means that you can't have all of these people out here rounding people up and trying to deport them, basically. Effectively, if he removed this emergency order, this could allow for, 1, the border to open back up, and 2, it would stifle ICE's ability and Customs and Border Patrol's ability to operate with the level of effectiveness that they have today, and it would also remove the ability or lend less credence to being able to use the Alien Enemies Act.
Emergency on immigration, and if the courts don't allow us to take people out, if we had to have a court case, think of it, every single person, we have millions of people. We're going to have millions of court cases. Figure 2 weeks a court case, it would be 300 years.
So let's talk about this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Now, question, if this has been talked about before, why are we talking about it again? Because you know it's going to be the same questions as before. Why are we talking about it again? Let's keep
There are some people that say, bring them back, put them in trial, and you get them out right away, because you see what happened just this morning. Tapes came out, horrible tapes from his wife. You don't get much worse than that. You don't get.
he's talking about. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's so. To me, it's funny. I ain't gonna lie, but they talk about the recording of a Garcia's wife.
I came to fill out a protective order. I think it was in December, but I didn't show up to the court because his family washed my brain, telling me that his dad was sick and not to do it. So I didn't do anything. But after that, it was I would call the police. I have a lot of police reports, and I kept trying to get to the door basement to try to open the door, and then he pushed me. So then when I was able to go outside to get a phone, I called 911 from a disconnected phone. Now they took a long time to get to the house. It was probably 20-30 minutes. So I saw a neighbor walking his dog, and I opened the door and I was like, help. And then when he heard me, he grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me. And then the neighbor, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times. And then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
Talking about how she used to get beaten and how I'm sorry. Look, don't unsubscribe. I normally would not laugh at this, but what's funny to me is because all these fake news people and his wife try to get this guy back into the country. You know, they're inevitably hoping that he comes back, and in some sort of strange twist, they try to administratively stop Donald Trump from removing him. Again, that's really what they want to do. I guarantee it. It's not about just bring him back, run a new trial, and then send him away again. No. They want to bring him back and keep him here and try to time it perfectly so when he comes back, some judge tries to say you can't deport him again until he goes through some sort of additional hearing or something. And then bada bing, bada boom, woke judge after woke judge, stupid decision after stupid decision, he inevitably ends up staying here. The left gets to hoot and holler, we beat Trump, we beat him, we won, right? That's what it's really about. So it's in Trump's best interest and in the country's best interest to never bring this guy back to the United States.
I mean, he seems certainly like a very dangerous, very bad person. But even the wife, who was so afraid, she was afraid to talk. And all of a sudden, tapes got released this morning that were devastating to him.
And this is the point, sir, about due process. The Constitution says every person, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Why not?
It says due process for criminal prosecutions. A deportation is not a criminal prosecution. It says for criminal courts and prosecutions, due process is given to every person. Nothing about immigration, nothing about walking into the country illegally. There are laws specifically tailored to that. These people, like Kristen Welker, are bold-faced lying.
Push to have him come back, present all of that evidence in court, let a judge decide.
Well, I'll leave that to the lawyers, and I'll leave that to the Attorney General of the United States,
but
because they're in it. You have to understand, I'm dealing with Russia and Ukraine. I'm dealing
and we're
with
going to talk about that.
I'm dealing with Iran. I don't know much about this gentleman other than I hear he's an absolute not good person. And I would expect that the Attorney General will be doing the right thing.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree? Mr.
I
President?
don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It
much.
seems.
The Fifth Amendment says, look, I'm going to pull it up on screen. 1 second. All right, guys, so I got it right here up on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and read this for anybody who's confused about what due process means, what they're talking about. I'm going to just quickly read it here and then give you my interpretation. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in a militia when in actual service in war, in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be put twice in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Okay, so this specifically references crime multiple times. Okay, it's talking about basically you cannot be persecuted for either some sort of capital or infamous crime. These are not prosecutions. These are administrative issues. You enter the country illegally, boom, just go home. What they're trying to do is say the same thing enough to where enough people believe that this somehow translates to a deportation being considered a massive punishment, which the Democrats dispute whether or not entering the country illegally is a crime to begin with. But they're trying to say that a deportation is considered some sort of capital punishment rather than it just being something that you did, which is wrong, where you are breaking a law. And the only thing they're doing is saying you got to leave. We're not prosecuting people, putting them in jail. There are some people being prosecuted and put in jail, and they are getting due process. But they're saying that every single person, when they show up prior to you deporting them, this somehow applies. Read this and tell me that it's the same thing Kristen Welker says. You cannot say that. It doesn't say nothing about that any person before deportation needs due process. This is saying criminals, people that are being basically prosecuted for criminals. It literally says indictment or grand jury. Okay, this is one amendment together. Okay, you can't ignore what happens in the front, the middle, or the end. It all is together. So what they're trying to do is separate out the end and just say, well, the Fifth Amendment says you need due process, and ignoring all the rest of the text. These people are liars, guys. When I say this stuff, I'm not making it up. I've read this like a million bajillion times. And now, so have you.
You said that you would consider working on getting Dreamers legal status. Dreamers, of course, those who were brought here illegally as children. Where do those efforts stand? Is that a priority for you?
Well, it's not a priority for the Democrats because every time we talk about it, they don't want to talk about it because I guess they like it as a political issue, but they're not good at political issues because they still want to have men playing women's sports.
Well, Republicans do control Congress right now, Mr. President.
Well, the Democrats controlled it before and they didn't do a dang thing for the Dreamers. So it's always the same thing with the Democrats. Oh, we're going to give reparations. We're going to take care of the Dreamers. We're going to make the rich pay their fair share. It's always the same dang thing with them. And they never accomplish anything. The only thing that they're doing these days is posting stupid TikTok videos and getting disastrous poll numbers.
What do you say to those who believe Elon Musk's chainsaw approach has jeopardized the safety and security of Americans?
Well, think of what 160 billion is. He found 160.
He said he'd find $2 trillion.
Well, we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet.
Do you think the work continues even though he's leaving? He said
sure, he's leaving behind some very brilliant people. They were on television last night. They're super high IQ people. I like high IQ people. The Democrats don't have many of them.
Let me ask you about some news.
This one person, it was almost like he was my brother. I don't even know who he is. Maybe he was there. Maybe he was in the Oval Office a few times as a surrogate for, you know, somebody in some form of government. I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like, even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, you know, whatever. But you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things like, sir, it's amazing what you've done with gasoline. Because you know what? Gasoline's big business. A stroller is not big business.
People who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia, they look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election.
Boom.
I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote.
See, she just tried to pretend like, well, we strive to ask fair questions. And he says all you do is ask negative stuff. Her next question, so people from Hungary are saying that you're authoritarian. What do you say to that? Like, this is just ridiculous.
I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think you could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually, I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about, people say this, people, well, you know, they had their chance at the election and they lost big. So you should ask the question differently. You should say, what about the people that want to be in this country? What about the people that love this country? Do you know that the European Union leaders have asked me to call Putin so many times because he doesn't return their phone call?
You posted on social media he might be tapping you along.
Might be.
Did you misread
But you might
him?
be tapping me along too when you tell me how nice an interview this is going to be. So, I'm used to being tapped along.
Did you in any way misread Vladimir Putin? Just to recap, we're talking about your desire to claim Canada, Greenland. What do you say to people?
You forgot the Panama Canal.
Panama Canal. What do you say to people who says we're nearing the end? Just a couple more questions here.
I'm not complaining. You keep saying to me like I'm rushing.
No, you're not, and I really appreciate it.
I don't want to
really
rush you. I don't want to make you nervous.
Thank you. The Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah, baby.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
You have built a political movement that has transformed the Republican Party. It's transformed the country, quite frankly.
Political movement in history, MAGA. Make America great again.
When you look to the future, Mr. President, do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you?
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a.
Oh yeah, because a lot of people are waking up to what the fake news and the radical left Democrat politicians are doing. So yeah, absolutely. We got J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Laura Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, Byron Donalds. I mean, do I need to freaking go on?
Tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. And you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he was grossly incompetent. And I think maybe for artificial reasons. You know, he had operations and things. So maybe that's an artificial. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was. He hasn't gone down. But Biden is really, he's the worst thing to happen to old people.
I know that you are only 100 days in.
Kristen Welker here absolutely wasted everybody's time. I hope you guys were entertained by this nonetheless, but effectively, she asked most of the same questions that everybody else has already asked, like, "Oh, why are people afraid of that you might be a dictator? Some people in Honduras said you remind them of their government." It's like, well, why the hell are everybody going to the United States and leaving their country to come to the United States? It must not be so freaking bad. It doesn't matter what people from rando countries have to say. It matters what the people of America here had to say. And they said, 77 million of them said that Donald Trump was who we wanted. We got a little taste back in 2016. In 2020, got a little taste, little bitterness of Sleepy Joe and the cackler Kamala Harris. 2024, we said we got on our hands, and he said, "Look, I'm sorry, Trump. I'm sorry. Please come back to the White House. We made a big mistake. We effed up." I mean, I voted for Trump in 2020, so I didn't have to do that, but that's what a lot of other people were doing. So it just is what it is. All of the negative tonality behind all of her little stupid questions over the price of strollers and all of this stupid stuff, Trump is absolutely right here. She's just as much of a propagandist as always. Now, I do think that Trump, in my opinion, probably has a soft spot for this fake news propagandist, because he's taken multiple interviews with her, and it seems like he's probably going to keep doing it. So I don't think it's just, they negotiate everything prior to these interviews. So, it's probably well known, like, yeah, we're going to do Welker again. And, he obviously agrees to it. If he wanted to, he could ask a requested interview with somebody else. So, maybe he likes the way that it goes. He feels like it goes okay. So he agrees to do it again. But hopefully you guys have gotten some entertainment out of this, because I did find it to be quite hilarious at times, even though she clearly is operating as a propaganda arm of the left, like always. But let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, because you know what? Gasoline's big business. A stroller is not big business.